A young black girl finds the wallet of a wealthy white millionaire and decides to return it. But only a few hours later, the police and the millionaire unexpectedly show up at her school. What happened? What could Layla have done to make them come all the way to see her? Follow the story to uncover the hidden truth. Layla Mitchell, a 12-year-old girl, lived with her mother in a tiny apartment nestled deep in a modest neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. Every morning, their small home was warmed by her mother's gentle calls and the aroma of simple meals. This morning was no different. Layla heard her mother's voice calling softly from the kitchen. "Time to get up, sweetheart." With a tone that was both tender and patient, Layla blinked a few times, trying to wake up, and took a deep breath, savoring the smell of toast and fried eggs from the kitchen. Though they didn't have much, Layla's mother, Julia, always tried to bring small joys to her daughter's day, even if it was only a modest breakfast. Julia, a woman with kind yet weary eyes, worked day and night to ensure Layla could study well, maintain her dignity, and grow up with pride. Layla climbed down from her small bed with its worn-out sheets and adjusted the basketball posters on her wall. Those images symbolized her dreams and hopes for a brighter future, a day when she would have the chance to change life for herself and her mother. She quickly put on her worn but neatly washed uniform. Layla always made sure her clothes looked presentable, even if they weren't new or fancy. She stepped out of her room and saw her mother standing there with a warm smile, her eyes full of love and pride for her daughter. "Sweetheart, have breakfast. You need the energy for a new day," Julia said, placing a plate of toast and fried eggs in front of Layla. Layla sat down, smiled, and said, "Thank you, Mom. The breakfast is delicious." Her smile revealed a small gap in her teeth from a recently lost baby tooth. As Layla ate, Julia leaned down and gently kissed her on the forehead. "Remember, Layla," she said with a voice that was soft yet resolute, "it's not about what we have, but who we are." Layla looked at her mother, her eyes shining with trust and determination. "I remember, Mom. I'll always try to make you proud." Layla replied with the serious tone of a girl with a strong sense of morals and honesty. After finishing her meal, Layla put on her old backpack and stepped outside, blending into the morning bustle of her neighborhood. The familiar path to school was getting busier. She waved at Mr. Peterson, an elderly man who sat on his porch every morning, and smiled at her best friend, Mia, who lived in the apartment next door. Mia had just come out and grabbed Layla's hand as they walked to school together, chatting nonstop along the way. The morning streets were filled with the sounds of cars, birds chirping, and people talking as they headed to work. Layla walked along, her mind on the upcoming math test, occasionally kicking a small pebble along the cracked pavement. She was reciting multiplication tables in her head, trying to memorize each problem, when something made her stop in her tracks. A shiny black object peeking out from beneath some dry leaves at the side of the path caught her attention. She slowed down, eyes fixed on it, and then bent down to pick it up. It was a sleek black leather wallet, and touching it, she knew it was expensive. Layla opened the wallet and gasped, stunned when she saw the neat stack of $100 bills inside. It was more money than she'd ever seen, far more than she and her mother could make in a month. Her heart raced and her hands trembled slightly as she flipped through the other compartments in the wallet. She found a clear plastic ID card with a bold name that surprised her: William Carter. Layla had heard of Mr. Carter before. He was a successful businessman famous for his wealth and influence in the city. She couldn't believe that a wallet belonging to someone like him would end up here, in the heart of her small, humble neighborhood. For a moment, Layla imagined all the things she could buy with this money: a new school uniform, a special dinner for her mom, or even the bike she had always dreamed of. She knew her mother would be thrilled to have a bit of extra money to make ends meet. But then her mother's words echoed in her mind like a bell of conscience. "It's not about what we have, but who we are." While she was still feeling conflicted, a homeless man nearby who had seen her pick up the wallet approached and said, "Young lady, honesty is precious. If you do the right thing, life will smile upon you." His warm voice and wise words made her feel more certain. Layla looked at the wallet again, then gently closed it and placed it in her backpack. She knew she had to return it to Mr. Carter, even if it meant being late to school and having to explain herself to her teacher. But for Layla, honesty and faith in goodness were worth more than anything else. Taking a deep breath, Layla felt a calm determination wash over her. She turned and walked toward the tall building where Mr. William Carter worked, unsure of what might lie ahead but resolute in her choice. Layla walked along the bustling streets leading into the city center, clutching her backpack tightly with Mr. Carter's wallet inside. Her excitement grew as she approached the towering buildings, where everything seemed glamorous and luxurious, a stark contrast to the modest neighborhood she called home. Inside her, a mix of nervousness and eagerness swirled together. She knew she was doing the right thing, yet she couldn't help but worry about how Mr. Carter would react. When Layla finally stood in front of the large building where Mr. Carter worked, she couldn't help but feel overwhelmed. The grand structure, with its gleaming glass panels reflecting the bright morning light, looked like a modern fortress rising in the heart of the city. To Layla, this place was both intimidating and foreign, like a world completely different from the one she was used to. She paused in front of the large glass doors, took a deep breath, and reminded herself that she was doing the right thing. It's not about what we have, but who we are, she reminded herself as a little encouragement. She reached out, pushed the heavy door open, and stepped inside, instantly feeling overwhelmed by the opulence of the lobby. The high ceiling was adorned with sparkling chandeliers. The floor was cool, polished marble, and the plush leather sofas were arranged neatly along the walls. Around her, well-dressed men and women moved briskly, dressed in her simple uniform. Layla felt small and out of place amidst such luxury. She noticed a few curious, even slightly skeptical glances from the people around her. Some seemed to eye her questioningly, unsure why a young girl with such a modest appearance would be here. At the front desk, a woman with her hair neatly pinned up, dressed in a crisp suit, noticed Layla's entrance. She frowned slightly before politely asking, "Can I help you with something?" Layla swallowed, feeling a bit shy, but she mustered up the courage to respond. "My name is Layla Mitchell. I found Mr. William Carter's wallet and wanted to return it to him." The receptionist tilted her head, a hint of surprise in her expression. She looked into Layla's clear, sincere eyes, then nodded as if she understood that this girl was genuinely serious about what she was doing. "Just a moment," the receptionist said, picking up the phone to call Mr. Carter's office. While waiting, Layla stood quietly, her eyes curiously taking in her surroundings. She felt that everything here was too extravagant for her, from the expensive leather chairs to the decorative paintings on the walls. She wondered what her mother would think if she were here, whether she would be just as surprised and overwhelmed. "Mr. Carter will meet you on the 30th floor," the receptionist said after hanging up, offering a supportive smile. "You can take the elevator over there. Someone will meet you when you arrive." Layla nodded in thanks and walked toward the elevator. She pressed the button, and as the metal doors opened, she stepped in, her heart pounding with anticipation. As the elevator climbed, each floor number lighting up on the control panel made her heartbeat quicken. She had never been in a building this tall nor imagined she would one day step into the world of the wealthy and powerful. When the elevator doors opened on the 30th floor, Layla found herself facing a long hallway with red carpeting lined with ornate paintings and gilded frames. Waiting for her at the end of the hallway was a middle-aged woman, elegantly dressed in professional attire, who smiled warmly as she spotted Layla. "You must be Layla," the woman asked. "I'm Rachel, Mr. Carter's assistant. Please follow me." Layla nodded gently, trying to suppress her nervousness as she followed Rachel down the hallway. They passed by offices with glass walls, where employees were busy working. She couldn't help but feel as though she were stepping into a whole new world where everything seemed flawless and distant. Finally, they stopped in front of a large wooden door. Rachel knocked softly and opened it, gesturing for Layla to step inside. "Mr. Carter, the young lady is here," Rachel introduced as Layla shyly stepped into the room. Mr. Carter's office was spacious, furnished with luxurious decor, and featured a floor-to-ceiling glass wall that offered a sweeping view of the city. "Mr. Carter," A middle-aged man with graying hair and sharp eyes sat behind a polished wooden desk. When he saw Layla enter, he squinted slightly, then smiled faintly, though there was a hint of skepticism in his expression. "You must be Layla, right?" Mr. Carter asked, his voice deep and serious, but with a touch of gentleness. Layla took a deep breath, carefully pulling the wallet from her backpack and holding it out. "Yes, sir. I found your wallet on my way to school and thought I should return it to you." Mr. Carter stared at the wallet, then slowly looked back up at Layla. His eyes showed a mix of surprise and doubt. He stood up, moved closer, and asked in a steady yet curious tone, "Why didn't you keep it? This money must mean a lot to you, doesn't it?" Layla hesitated for a moment, but then her eyes brightened with determination. "No, sir. My mother always taught me that what matters is who we are. I knew this money didn't belong to me, and I felt that returning it was simply the right thing to do." Hearing these words, Mr. Carter's eyes softened, his initial suspicion turning into astonishment and admiration. He looked at Layla, recognizing the sincerity in her gaze. A smile appeared on his face as he reached out to take the wallet. "You are a remarkable young lady, Layla," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "Not everyone would have done what you did today. You've taught me a valuable lesson in honesty." Layla smiled gently, feeling her tension ease. She hadn't expected this encounter to mean so much. For her, returning the wallet was simply the right thing to do. But through Mr. Carter's admiring gaze, she realized that sometimes our small actions can leave a lasting impact on others. Mr. Carter nodded thoughtfully, as if reflecting on something. He understood that this young girl was admirable not only for her honesty, but also for her humility and pure character. What had started as a seemingly simple event turned into a profound and memorable moment for both Mr. Carter and Layla. Afterward, they continued their conversation. Layla sat in the soft leather chair across from Mr. Carter, her heart pounding with excitement. This was the first time she had ever been in such a spacious and luxurious office, and she had never imagined she would meet a famous businessman like Mr. Carter. However, with all her humility and determination, Layla maintained her sincere gaze as she looked at him. Mr. Carter watched Layla intently for a while, as if he were pondering her story. Finally, he spoke, his voice warm yet serious. "Layla, do you know in this world, honesty and kindness are not always valued? Sometimes people are tempted by money and fame, and they easily overlook the values they once believed in." He paused, his gaze deepening as he looked at Layla. "But you, a small young girl, dared to do the right thing, something not everyone is willing to do." Layla nodded gently, her eyes shining with an understanding beyond her years. She replied, her voice soft yet confident, "Sir, I never thought that being honest was difficult or rare. My mother always taught me that honesty is the foundation of all good things. I don't see myself as special. I just did what my mom has taught me since I was little." Mr. Carter was momentarily silent, captivated by Layla's innocence and sincerity. He smiled and asked, "But do you know the money in this wallet is no small amount? Given your family situation, it could be a significant help. Didn't you ever consider keeping some of it, even if only to help your mother?" Layla looked down, her gaze fixed on the wallet on the table, pondering for a moment before looking back up. "Yes, sir, I did think about it," she said. "I thought about buying my mom a nice meal or helping her so she wouldn't have to work as hard. But then I remembered my mom's words. It's not about what we have, but who we are." I understood that keeping the wallet wasn't the right thing to do because it didn't belong to me. And I believe that doing the right thing will bring other good things without needing money. Mr. Carter was astonished by Layla's mature perspective, seeing such profound insights from someone so young. He looked at the wallet, then back at her with an expression of respect. "You know, Layla, your honesty and kindness have reminded me of the values we sometimes forget in this busy life." With that, Mr. Carter opened his desk drawer, pulled out a check, and began to write. When he handed it to Layla, she was surprised to see a large sum on it, much more than she had ever seen in her life. "This is a small gift I want to give you and your mother to thank you for your honesty," Mr. Carter said, his eyes filled with sincerity. This money could help you and your mother through tough times. You deserve it." Layla looked at the check, her eyes widening in disbelief. She felt her hands tremble slightly, but after a few moments of thought, she gently pushed the check back toward Mr. Carter, her voice soft yet resolute. "Thank you very much, sir, but I can't accept this money. I didn't do this for a reward, and I believe that my honesty shouldn't be exchanged for material things." Mr. Carter was taken aback by Layla's firm refusal. He put the check back in his drawer, his eyes showing admiration and emotion. "You are truly a rare girl, Layla. Not everyone can refuse such a large sum, especially when you and your mother are facing difficulties." Layla smiled gently and replied, "Thank you, sir. I believe that doing the right thing will naturally bring good things. I don't need money to feel the pride in my heart for returning your wallet." Mr. Carter leaned back in his chair, gazing off into the distance, memories of his childhood flooding back, bringing with them the bitter taste of hard days. As a child, he too had lived in hardship, facing challenges daily. His family was poor, living in a working-class neighborhood where kids often had to become independent and grow up in tough conditions. He remembered the early mornings when he had to wake up to help his parents. Each day, his job was to run errands around the neighborhood, delivering goods or cleaning. He did everything with the hope of helping his parents, even if it was just a small amount to buy more food for the family. His small hands had become calloused early, yet his pride and belief in hard work never waned. Like Layla, Mr. Carter had faced temptations. There were times when he saw people easily making money through deceit or even petty theft. Once, while working at a diner, an older man suggested he keep the extra change from customers for himself. He was tempted because, to a poor child, that amount was not small. But then he remembered his mother's teachings. Money not earned through honest work would never bring true happiness. Remembering his mother's words, he refused, firmly rejecting ease and deceit, no matter how difficult life was. Over time, the principles he had held on to helped him rise and achieve success through his hard work. Now, sitting across from Layla, he felt as though he was seeing a reflection of himself as a child, a small but resilient person holding on to honesty despite the hardships. Those childhood memories, filled with challenges yet bright with faith in honesty and determination, remained within him, reminding him of the value of each step in his life. Mr. Carter took a deep breath, a warm smile spreading across his face. "Layla, you've taught me a valuable lesson today. You reminded me that sometimes all it takes is a small act of honesty to make a big difference. I'm grateful, and I want to express my appreciation in some way. But I won't pressure you to accept a reward. Instead, I'll think of something else, something that may be more meaningful to you." Layla nodded quietly, feeling the warmth of Mr. Carter's respect and understanding. She didn't know exactly what he had in mind, but she sensed that he genuinely valued her kindness. Though this encounter was unusual, she felt relieved knowing she had done the right thing and that it was acknowledged. The conversation continued as Mr. Carter asked Layla about her life, her mother, and the challenges they faced. Layla told him about her mother, a hard-working woman with nothing but love and the moral values she instilled in her. She spoke of her small dreams, her wish to make her mother proud, and her desire to contribute to her community. Listening, Mr. Carter felt a profound sense of empathy and emotion within himself. He realized that this young girl was not only honest but also had a kind heart, thoughtful of others, and appreciative of life's simple things. "Layla," he said warmly, "you've given me new faith in people, and I won't forget your honesty and kindness. You will always be a wonderful example of integrity, and I'll